Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Rent Prep for Landlords. This is episode number 207, Steve.
I thought it was 206.
Yeah. I screwed up in the URL the last one, so it looked like it was 205. So this one we thought was 206, but really this is 207.
Oh,
I could
all
be
right.
wrong. It's happened multiple times today.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
welcome to 207 then.
Well, you guys can't see this because it's a podcast, but Steve and I look like we're wearing swimming caps.
I got to say, these, what are they called? Bandana tubes?
They're tube bandanas or multifunctional bandanas.
They're pretty awesome. It looks like a pant leg, right? Kind of a tube construction, just a long thing that you can pull over your head. Wear it as a scarf, you can double it up, and wear it as a cap. You can
Headband, hairband, scarf, all sorts of stuff. I think there's over actually 20, it's going to get a little crinkly here on the podcast, but you can see them all there. There's about 20 different options, things you can do with it, and they are branded Rent Prep. So we just did a free giveaway in our Facebook group, Rent Prep for Landlords, but I wanted to make sure that people who are listening to this podcast and not in our Facebook group got a chance to get a free bandana. So if you're listening to this and you want a free multi-use bandana, which is really awesome if you got hair, which I don't, you can email me at Eric, ERIC, at rentprep.com, RENTPREP.com. Just email me and just say, bandana, give me one. And, I'll shoot you a link for a form that you can fill out, and we'll mail you one of those. We'll do that for, I don't know, maybe about a week or so, because we got a limited supply. So
yeah, it's pretty cool. It's multifunctional. It works for anything. I'm thinking about wearing it hiking. I'm sure you could probably wear it bike riding, although you probably wear a helmet, don't you?
Well, you can put it underneath. I actually
that's
always
true.
wear a skull cap underneath because I am a sweaty hoss of a human being.
Well, for hiking, it's perfect because, you deal with bugs, or cold weather or whatever it is. You could drape it, just over a certain area or around your neck. If you got, black flies bothering you, swarming around you, nipping at your face.
To be honest, you do sound a little bit like you're commissioned on these.
I know.
They got so many options. You can put them over your eyes, over your face, over your neck, over your chest. You can, rip one open and wear it as a Band-Aid.
It is pretty cool. We threw one on the head of a statue in my office.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're really multi-use. We're getting use out of them everywhere. Sure.
We're also easily amused too.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
So let's get into this episode. We'll roll some of that sweet intro music, and then when we get back, we will cover some in the news topics. We got a bunch of stuff going on across the country, and we also have a landlord hotline for you guys. So let's get into it.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
Welcome to the Rent Prep for Landlords podcast. And now your hosts, Stephen White and Eric Worrell.
All right, Steve. This week, we've got 3 in the news articles that we wanted to share with our audience, and we'll jump right into it. So we got a top 10 list of the best cities for first-time home buyers. Yep. So I don't know if you would have guessed. I mean, it's kind of hard because you already know what the number one is. But,
True.
I mean, what would you guess if you're talking first-time home buyers, top 10 list? What's number 1?
Probably Buffalo, just because I know what the market is out here, and the prices are so ridiculously low.
Mm-hmm.
You get literally a mansion for the same price as a two bedroom, tiny 1,000 square foot house in Seattle or someplace. You can get literally a 10-room mansion in Buffalo.
Yeah, Seattle, San Francisco, New York City did not make the list. But
Shocking.
why don't we do a countdown from 10 on down? I'll start with number 10, Dallas, Texas. Number 9,
Louisville, Kentucky.
Number 8, Wichita, Kansas.
Number 7, San Antonio, Texas.
Number 6 is Indianapolis, Indiana.
5 is Tulsa, Oklahoma.
4 is Houston, Texas.
3 is Omaha, Nebraska.
Number 2 is Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
And big shout out to our buddies over at Rental Rookies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh named number 1.
Yeah.
I got to imagine the market.
Shout out for the Rust Belt, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I got to imagine the market's pretty similar across the Rust Belt, where you're going to be able to, climb into a reasonably priced home, especially if you're a first-time home buyer. $150,000, $200,000 is going to get you a really nice first-time home, your first house.
That was a nice second-time home for me.
Wow. Well, it was also
Steve.
10 years ago. No, it was maybe 10 years ago, but prices have gone up for sure. And I feel like, if you're a new home buyer, this is definitely a good market for you. So what does it mean for landlords?
Well, for landlords, I guess, if you got first-time home buyers coming to an area, that's probably going to affect the town itself, right? There's a difference between I know at least here in the Buffalo area, we have like the Clarence, Williamsville areas where it's probably more so somebody's second home, or it's not the starter home kind of thing, versus other towns where it's, usually your starter homes.
Yeah.
I guess, if it's a city full of first-time home buyers, or named best for that, it's probably lower income, lower prices, you would think?
I would think so. And I know some cities, again, there's a local municipality here in Western New York. It's Hamburg, New York, that has a super aggressive first-time home buyer incentive, like grant. It's $10,000 if you...
I did not know that.
Yeah, if you qualify, if you're a legitimate first-time home buyer and you buy within the village or the town or one of those stipulations.
There's so many grants too. Like if you just own rental properties, I mean, probably most people listening to this podcast, if they own rental properties, they probably own their own home, but some people don't.
Unless you're Grant Cardone.
Yeah, right. What are you, an idiot? You bought your own house?
You should never buy real estate. Crazy.
Are you stupid?
Yeah,
but
I would agree. 99% probably own their own home.
But I remember when I bought, it was during the returns they were doing, Obama had set up. I forget what it was, but it was like up to like 6% of the cost of your home. I remember it was either $6,000 or $8,000 on a first-time home buyer. And my buddy Will, he even did it better because he got into a first-time home buyer club through, I don't know if it was Citibank or one of those lenders, but if you did it through their program, they would match you dollar for dollar up to a certain amount. So he got like, they put in $3,000 and got another $3,000. So his first house was like $100,000 and he got like 10 grand of it back. Wow. So if you know somebody, at least maybe you know somebody younger that's buying a first time home, make sure you have them do some research on any kind of first time home buyer clubs, because there's a lot of banks and credit unions that offer those kind of incentives too.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, let's move along. And you already actually mentioned Seattle a little bit.
Yeah.
Seattle is definitely not in the first time home buyer club.
No.
So this article, actually, you know what? I should probably go back and at least give credit. The last one came from nextpittsburgh.com. I didn't want to give it away. Would have ruined the punchline. But this article on Seattle comes from fortunebuilders.com, written by Than Merle. And it's talking about how the real estate market in Seattle, Washington is bananas.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to read this paragraph here or kind of give your opinion, but...
Yeah. So the median home price in Seattle has become the beneficiary of several positive indicators, due in large part to a booming tech scene and a very encouraging fundamentals of average home prices. They've jumped up exponentially. Combine that with the same inventory shortage as the rest of the country is experiencing, and there's no wondering why Seattle's appreciation rates are so high. 17.2% for an appreciation rate in
the last year,
which is absolutely insane.
You would think like San Francisco would just be crushing it on that, but San Francisco surprisingly was at 11.6, while Seattle's at 17.2, and New York City's at 6.1%.
That's
so
unbelievable. So
if you're a landlord with property in Seattle, good for you.
Yeah,
because maybe your rents went up a little bit, but the appreciation alone is awesome.
And so over the past 12 months, the average home value has risen from $670,000 to $772,000. Obviously, as a landlord, I think how this affects you, whether you're from Seattle or not, we're starting to see a lot of legislation, a lot of best practices type of regulation coming out of Seattle in terms of how you screen tenants, how you the application process, the selection process. They're starting to get much more heavy-handed there because there's such a shortage of housing. They want to make sure that everybody's playing fair and playing by the rules. What that means for landlords across the country is it usually only takes one piece of legislation for another municipality to go, oh, it worked for them.
Mm-hmm.
We should try the same thing. And then the domino effect starts to occur.
Did you see that? I think it's relatively new within the last few weeks that they are banning criminal. You cannot do a criminal search on a tenant applicant now.
Where?
In Seattle.
In Seattle?
Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure I just read something that is just blanket across the board. You can't do a criminal search.
That's insane.
It is. It's just like, oh, so you've murdered somebody, but that's not my prerogative to know that because that doesn't affect your rental ability.
Yeah, you were arrested this year for destruction of property. That's irrelevant to you being in my home. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that has an average cost of $772,000. Yeah, that is nuts. But it's proof again that you're going to see San Francisco did the same thing a couple of years ago. You start to see the most aggressive legislation come out of those places because they're in full blown tenant protection mode.
See, I get it a little bit. Like, I think we talked to Brad Larson when he was on the podcast about that, how he said, like, he had a family member that's a teacher in San Francisco, and it's like somebody can't afford to live in San Francisco on a teacher's salary based on this. And you need teachers, you need people maybe who aren't in the tech industry to be able to live in your city so they can support the people who do live there. But on the other end, like, it's weird how much the government, in my opinion, steps in on this stuff, because it's like, how many times does that happen in a regular business where they decide, you know what, like, it's too expensive, we're going to want you guys to just lower your prices? I mean, that stuff doesn't really happen. And like, there's a part of me that's just like, you know what, if you can't afford to live in that city, like, move to another city. Like, if
Find a new place. Yeah.
The same thing's true in business. If you can't find work somewhere, you don't like have the government step in to find you work. A lot of time you go somewhere where you can find work, you know?
Yeah, probably easier for somebody that's moving to the area and choosing. But if you were born and raised in San Francisco and you've just been outed by an industry coming in that you're not a part of,
and all these like guys with high salaries with like curly mustaches and britches and stuff, and you're like, what the hell?
Hipster paradise there. Yeah, I would say, again, this is going to be a domino effect across the country. You're going to see it more and more as population grows. Building being down, vacancy being down. There's going to be a way higher need for units to rent than there are people to rent them.
I also got pulled up on the screen here for Steve and I for our visual notes, but episode number 184, double dipping with Tim Shiner. I thought that was worth mentioning because we're talking about appreciation. So he was a podcast guest who a lot of his strategy for his rental incomes was actually more so built on appreciation than anything. So if you haven't heard episode 184 with Tim Shiner, you'll really enjoy that. He talks about how he's in the Dallas market and he buys near like $750,000 rental properties, single family homes, and he's crushing it with them, not only on his rents, his appreciation, but also he's sending the people when they go to buy a house, they're buying through his wife, who's a realtor. So
it's an incentive to break the lease. If you're going to break the lease, we'll allow you to do it as long as you purchase the home through his wife, who's the agent.
Yeah.
Pretty genius.
Yeah. Definitely check out episode 184. So I feel like we're moving along perfectly because we were just talking about San Francisco. We got an article that comes from the sfchronicle.com from Wendy Lee. This came out May 12th. So this is a few days ago. Basically, there's a scramble for Sunnyvale. If you're not familiar, Sunnyvale is a part of California in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's right by Mountain View, kind of in between Mountain View and San Jose. So it's pretty high-end real estate. And
very techy.
Yes. And this article is talking about the fact that the huge tech companies have long carved out their turf in Silicon Valley. So you have Apple has Cupertino, Google has Mountain View, and Facebook has Menlo Park. But these behemoths keep expanding, and their offices are spilling into other parts of the region. So now one of the new spots is Sunnyvale, which was once a sleepy orchard, which makes it sound so sad.
Yeah,
it was a sleepy, happy, docile orchard until Facebook came in and carved it up. But it's being gobbled up. All the commercial real estate is being gobbled up really fast. So as of right now, Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google, which I think they should just rename it to Google.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody knows Alphabet.
No.
And that's lame too. You shouldn't be able to name a company Alphabet.
Yeah.
Like generic. I want to start a company. I'm going to call it America.
Yeah. Numbers.
Numbers. Latin. But anyways, they own 22% of Sunnyvale's office space, while Apple owns about 10%. So I just thought this was kind of interesting, because we all know about San Francisco's market and how it's so built up and expensive, but it's still trending in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, 22% is pretty impressive, but who are we looking at that owns a
69%?
Super impressive 69%?
It's Apple owns 69% of Cupertino's office space.
That is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much own that town.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. So I could see how that's a problem for local investors or anybody who
maybe you're thinking about opening up a juice bar, and your dream is, I want to open up a juice bar in Sunnyvale, California. I'd recommend you don't, because your rent's probably going to be about $5,000
yeah, it's going to be in
per square foot.
Yeah, you're competing with Alphabet.
Yeah,
it's not going to work. Or maybe it will. Maybe that's the right place to do it if you got the right cash going into it. But it's definitely not an even playing field. It's not very fair. I guess you're in a good position if you own property there and you're looking to offload. You're probably getting, the competition's probably driving the market way up, and they're making out really well. But if you're looking to break into a market, that's probably not the place to go.
All right. I don't know if you saw this already, Steve, but guess how many thousand employees are there just in Mountain View, Google employees?
Google employees?
Yeah, you're not going to see it on the screen. I just took it away.
10,000.
23,000 just in Mountain View. So that's 39% of the city's office space.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just crazy. These companies are so huge. I mean, we're used to our Buffalo market where we're like, we got General Mills. Our city smells like Cheerios. And I know like one person ever that's worked there.
Yeah.
Ingram Micro.
Geico. Yeah. There's not very many. But
and there's that corner store. What is that? Rick's Corner Store down there? They got a few guys that are, you can go down there, get some candy cigarettes. It's a good time, Play some of that lotto game on the TV screen.
Whole different ball game from out west right now. For
Absolutely.
Sure.
All right. Well, that does it for In the News, but we have our next segment coming up here, and it is our famous, or should I say infamous, landlord hotline. Mm-hmm. So if you want to leave a message on the landlord hotline, you can do so. You can call our recorded voicemail at 716-218-0363. And this week, we have a message from a landlord that's going through some trouble. She actually left this on one of our blog posts about a tenant that's angry and damaging the rental property. Ooh. So let's have a listen to this.
We have an angry tenant who is broke up with his girlfriend and wanted to rent out the next room, and apparently called the ex-girlfriend and became angry over her not being home or some type of argument or situation, and busted in the landlord's door of the room she's renting out. And now it has gone to a whole new level. So I pulled up this website, and hopefully I will be able to send the pictures after I attach them. And we're going to have to get a 24-hour eviction, even though the gentleman already agreed to move, but we're not sure how long that's going to take. So I'm trying to go about it the legal way and the adult manner without emotions involved, distracting me or causing me not to do this the correct way. So that's why I'm sending this to you for some type of help.
Well, I'm trying to piece this together a little bit. I feel like you were too.
Yeah, I think I get it. So in a nutshell, I just want to point out that when you're not in the role of a landlord, you hear a story and you're like, oh, that sounds crazy, or I can only imagine what you're dealing with. And then when you are a landlord and the crazy stories happening in your property, it sucks. It really does. I mean, so in this case, she's got a couple that split up. The boyfriend was clearly upset. The girlfriend sounds like she was out on a date or something. And the boyfriend did not like that. And he wanted a separate room, which it sounds like he got. But after she had gone on her date, maybe he wanted to, who knows what he wanted to do. I don't know. But
sometimes you don't have a key and you just got to knock a door down.
He wanted to go get his, his CD that he left over there or something. Or a sweatshirt. Yeah.
Very 2018 of you.
Yeah.
I've left my A-track in your apartment.
Yeah. I had perfectly legitimate reason to kick the door in.
I think she's doing a good job. I think what she's gleaning from the blog post that she was reading, a lot of it was about being able to control your emotions in this type of situation. So I thought that was good that she was addressing that.
She was pretty calm.
Yeah. I'm not sure what she was talking about, the 24-hour eviction.
I don't know.
Maybe she's getting like, what do you call it when you're 24-hour notice to enter?
Maybe 24-hour notice to enter. It's usually a 3-day pay or quit notice. I mean, her time frame, seems a little bit off.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you got somebody who's doing, damaging the rental property, I'm not exactly sure, to be honest, how the eviction process works if you get the cops involved.
Call the police. Yeah, that's step one. If somebody kicked in the door of another tenant, I mean, regardless of their relationship status, but at the end of the day, they're two tenants on two separate leases, it sounds like. Mm-hmm. And one tenant kicked the other tenant's door in and entered their property. That's 100% a situation for the police to get involved.
Do you think that's one where maybe you could expedite the removal of that tenant for, putting the other tenant in hazard, or like violating their quiet enjoyment, right to quiet enjoyment, or something like that?
That's a good question. I think that would be up to the court to decide. It would, maybe be dependent on whether the other tenant wanted to press charges, whether maybe there was some sort of a court-ordered restraining order against the person. Maybe that would have a hand in helping to remove him a bit faster. But at the end of the day, it's a process. There's not a whole lot of shortcuts to it. You got to take the steps and you follow the process through. So, the landlord's definitely got a little bit of a road ahead of her. But when they do something like that, that's a heck of a lot easier to have the police come out, prove something, get documented evidence versus some weird he said, she said, maybe some passive aggressive stuff, or tenants not getting along, or one tenant giving the other one the finger every day for a month or something. You've heard it all. So
it was really discreet. It was on the side of the nose. That kind of finger.
Yeah. I remember very early on, I can't remember the specific episode, but we had a tenant on that was having all kinds of racist profanity screamed at her. The guy was giving her the finger every day, leaving stuff on her car, like just total harassment. And this poor woman had to endure months of it, basically, and try to gather evidence and try to create proof and try to get enough to be able to say, hey, look, this is what I'm dealing with, versus a kicked in door and a break-in is much easier to say, here's the problem. Let's, you know what I mean? It's easy to document. It's easy to get the police out there and file a report. It's not easy to say this person's been harassing me and I really have no proof of it, but trust me, every day this guy gives me the finger and it's getting old.
Yeah. The one thing that's important too is I think some landlords go a little bit overboard. Like they might have a hole in their wall and then they call the police. It's like, don't call the police for that. They have better things to do. But yeah, if you have a tenant that's threatening another tenant's well-being, call the police. They're going to do all the documenting. Like it's not going to be your having to be the detective at the courtroom. It's just, let's look at the police notes. What's written down in this case here.
Yeah. If I'm a landlord, you're 100% right. Like that to me is an opportunity to have a higher authority do the documentation for you. Yeah. So I'll take it. Sure.
Maybe we've figured out some unethical life pro tip, Have a tenant damage your property slightly, stage an entire murder scene so you can have the cops come out. And
I can think of cases where damage might be a concern. I remember that one where the tenant had an AK-47 leaned up against the wall and he shot through the wall.
Yeah.
That would obviously be something where you might want to have the police out there. That's putting everyone in danger, the tenants upstairs, the people in the building. I mean, regardless of your gun policy, that's firing a weapon in a building. You can't do that. So that in that case, pretty cut and dry. But I would say you don't want to call the cops if you find.
Every time I hear AK-47, you probably won't know this reference because you're not an NBA fan. You ever heard of Andrei Kirilenko?
Never in my life.
All right. He was a guy who played basketball for the Utah Jazz. It was, I think, was what he was mostly known for. And he was a Russian fellow and very tall, lanky man. Had a very interesting life, too. His wife gave him a hall pass. Said, you know what? You're an NBA superstar. I know you cheat. So I'll give you 2 women per year. They can follow you on the road.
Perfect.
I was like, wow, that's weird.
Some man of character there. Yeah,
right.
I'd like to hear now how the AK-47 wraps into the story.
His number was 47 on the court. His name was Andrei Kirilenko, so it was AK-47, and he's from Russia. And I was like, oh, that's actually a pretty good use of a jersey number. I'll give him that.
Yeah, that is pretty good.
Yeah, I was always 23 if I could get it because of Michael Jordan. But then, you kind of feel like a tool because I couldn't touch the rim even though I should have been able to. Yeah. And
my son plays hockey, and if you see a kid wearing 99, your immediate reaction is you shouldn't be wearing that number.
Yeah, exactly.
At a certain age, if they're little kids, sure. But after they get older, I got to imagine you were probably too old to be wearing 23.
Well, I kind of phased out of that. And plus I couldn't, they made the taller guys numbers were bigger. So I got to choose 33 and up. So I do 33 for Pippen. It's 33.50. They're like, hey, you're tall. You got to wear a bigger number.
Nice.
Well, are you aware that in soccer too? I believe it's number 10 is what the captains wear.
No.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
you know what? If you got a soccer fan that's listening, you can call me out because I don't really know soccer that well. But Pele, I think it was in Brazil, was number 10. So if you watched a World Cup, you'll see that the best players are number 10, and that's because of Pele. So it's kind of the opposite culture in soccer. Yeah,
It's like an homage versus you respect that and don't wear it.
yeah.
All right. I won't give you the rest of my opinion on that, but that sounds awesome.
I'm hoping one day when I hang up the Rent Prep jersey that, it goes up in the
In the rafters?
7-foot rafters from our suspended ceilings here.
Open trust building?
Yeah.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah, just to let somebody know. The new guy can come in and be like, who is Eric Worrell? 23.
He was an amazing marketing guy.
He was one of the best podcast hosts
Yeah.
I've ever had.
150 episodes on the podcast.
And you know what? Don't pour out some crappy liquor. I want some good liquor poured out for me.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, for this poor landlord here that's dealing with a kicked door and all these other things, continue to. You sound like an incredibly patient woman, so continue that. That attitude of there's not a whole lot you can do other than follow the process.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get emotional about it, but obviously protect your tenant.
Yeah.
Protect that other woman who now has to worry that this guy is going to be kicking her door down and doing who knows what.
I feel like we brought it up maybe on like 20, 30 podcasts ago, but it was something that we were calling the ICE method. I believe that's on the blog post this lady read. So she was kind of getting into that a little bit, but I kind of borrowed it from Stephen Covey. But the ICE acronym just stands for identify, categorize, and eliminate.
Yeah.
So identify, what's going on. Identify, anything emotional you might be feeling, what's going on with the situation. Categorize everything that's happening into 2 buckets. There's the stuff you can control, and there's the stuff you can't control.
Yeah.
You can't control the fact that this door just got pounded in. You can't go back in time. Maybe you can't control the fact that these 2 tenants are at each other's throats right now. But there's things that you can control, and there's things you can't control. And then look at the things that you can control in any situation that you're dealing with, whether it's as a landlord or just life in general, right? And then eliminate.
Yeah.
Just figure out ways that you can eliminate those issues of the things that you can control. And then try not to just sit there and fester over the things you can't control because you just drive yourself nuts.
Yeah. Another good tip is this is another good reason why you should have separate leases.
Mm-hmm.
If this happens now, it's much easier to remove that one person on their own lease and to identify that they violated the terms of their own lease.
I was wondering from the sounds of it if it might have been an apartment building from what she was describing. And maybe they were in separate apartments and then they became boyfriend, girlfriend, and he kicked down her door. I don't know.
It sounded like they were renting rooms just because she said that he went in her room.
Okay.
So I think they might be renting rooms, which is definitely a whole different layer of complication when you're dealing with couples and split ups and things like that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's important. I know we talk about it a lot, like managing stress, whether it's just at your job, as a landlord, whatever, and just being able to, quelch the stuff that doesn't matter and just have their perspective. I know it's something that I deal with all the time. Actually, I was driving home last night, and the road that comes up to my house, if I take the back way, has got all these like medical plazas, campuses kind of on it. And there's always older people that are driving on the road. And I feel okay saying that because I feel like a lot of older people don't listen to podcasts. But it's always a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. I can't tell you how many times somebody's going 20 miles an hour.
Sure.
And I just get all worked up. And somebody's doing it last night. And finally, the light bulb clicked for me. It was like, buddy, you're probably going to go driving down this road for the next 30 years. And you can either get worked up for the next 30 years because people are always not going to know where they're going and driving slow because they're on their way to some doctor's appointment, or you can just decide to let it go today and just enjoy.
I always think of it like this, like, thank God older people drive slow. It would be terrifying if it was the opposite. They would just consistently went like 20 miles over the speed limit. That would be frightening.
It's pretty much like having a BAC of like 3 beers all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? And since you're telling personal stories, can we talk a little bit about your weekend situation with your rental?
I wasn't sure if I wanted to, but yeah, it's not a fun one.
Yeah.
I got a call this weekend that the rental property got broke into.
Yep.
And this was one of those things. I mean, immediately, like, spidey sense is going off like, oh, crap. I mean, this is a place I used to live in. So, I got some of that emotional attachment to it. And I also have some friends that when I lived there, they lived in the other apartment. They still live there. So, there's that kind of aspect of it playing into it. I know I'm not supposed to rent to your friends.
Yeah. You're breaking all the rules.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But basically what happened from what I can take from the situation is somebody went into the common areas. There's a upstairs, downstairs hallway, moved some stuff around like sneakers. Left a coat in the driveway. This was all late at night too.
Not their coat, a coat removed from the apartment?
No, their coat. For some reason, yeah. So when I ended up, and I
already got a theory.
Okay. I bet you I'm going to say the same thing right now. Okay. So the first thing I thought though was, all right, get over there right away. But then they said the girl upstairs thought that they might have gone to the attic. So I was like, well, what the heck? Because she thought her shoes to the door to the attic and the stuff was moved. Okay. So I called the cops. I'm like, look, I'm not going to be a hero and go in the attic and see if somebody's in there. Yeah. So I had 2 cops ended up showing up. We walked through the attic. We walked through the basement, all the different cubbies, just to make sure there wasn't anybody in the property.
Smart. Good move. Good pro tip there.
Yeah. And then when we got out, made sure there wasn't anything stolen or anything like that. Couldn't see anything of value that might have been missing.
So nothing was stolen.
Yep.
Things were moved around.
Yep.
And the person left
say it, Steve.
Personal item in the driveway.
Yeah. What do you think?
They were drunk and went to the wrong house.
That's what I think too.
Yeah. They were bombed, got the Uber dropped them off in front of a house. They went into the house. The tenants, I'm assuming, should have locked the property. Mm-hmm. They didn't lock the property. So open door, walk right in, kick some stuff around, stumbling around.
Yep.
You realize all of a sudden, oh my God, this isn't my house.
Yeah.
You get out of there as quick as you can.
It happened when I lived there too. There was like a limo bus that was like 2 doors down for some party from college kids were throwing. We had like 3 girls just ring the doorbell and we're screaming. And when we answered, me and my girlfriend or fiance at the time, was my wife, like they were just like, oh my God, the wrong house. And then like ran away.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't piece it together the first time you told me the story earlier today. But as you're going
in the driveway is weird.
Yeah, as you're going through it, I'm like, this has all the telltale signs of.
That's exactly what the cops said too.
Yeah, what did they do with the coat? Did the cops pick it up?
I threw it out. It was soaked. It had been sitting outside. But so this was one of those situations, right? It's like categorize what can you control, what can't you control, kind of thing. And one of the issues I've wondered is if my tenants have downstairs tenants have trouble remembering to lock the door.
Yeah.
So
that's a very polite way to put it.
Yeah. So
I wonder if they have trouble remembering.
The door itself too, like I won't just completely throw them under the bus. Like the one lock doesn't work as well as the other.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
So what I did is I took out the regular handle lock, the handle below, and then above is a deadlock.
Yeah.
So I removed both. I created the handle below. I just turned it into a closet handle. So there's no lock or anything on it at all. You can't lock it at all.
Right.
It's just for giving you something to grab onto and pull shut the door.
Yep.
The upper one is now a quick set keypad lock. So that's nice for a couple reasons because number one, it does have a key that can go into it. It's also one of those smart keys that you can rekey. So I'll be able to easily rekey every time we have new tenants move in. And then it's also got a keypad. So now if somebody gets locked out, as long as they remember their code, they can get back in. And the other thing that's really nice is if they pull the door shut and then just let it go, it won't even stay. It'll just open right back up. So they physically will see the door open back up the way I've got it set up. So they have to close it and lock it. So it's kind of like, how do you, I don't want to say idiot proof, but how do you tenant proof things, Right. So it's like, if somebody's in a hurry, they're not just going to leave the door wide open kind of thing. Because yeah, I do believe that the door was probably closed, not locked, and some drunk person just stumbled in and made a scene.
I mean, all things considered, that's best case scenario. Nothing got stolen. It's a wake-up call.
Yep.
Hey, lock the door. I installed this new thing to help make it easier.
Yep.
And hopefully they're conditioned to remember to start doing that.
You'd hope so after that, right?
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. But cool. Well, thanks for sharing, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
But not a great phone call to get, I would assume.
Oh, no.
As a
I started
landlord.
getting hijacked for sure. Like, as soon as I got it, I was like, oh, and I was like, I'm just selling this place. I'm tired of it. I'm done, And then like 2 days later, I'm like, nah, it's a pretty good cash cow. I'm going to keep it.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, again, that situation could have been much worse. So I'm glad to hear that it pretty much all worked out pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. So, well, I think that concludes episode number 207. So thank you guys for listening. Again, if you want to get a Rent Prep bandana, we do have some set aside just for the Rent Prep landlord listeners. And like we said, it's a multi-use. There's about 20 different uses for it. So just email me at eric@rentprep.com. In the subject line, just put something like Rent Prep Bandana so I know what it's about. And look forward to getting those emails, and I'll get those sent out to you as well. So thanks for listening. And until next week, Steve.
Awesome. Can't wait.
All right. Sounds good. All right. See you guys. Take care.